Hi, welcome back to Grains in Small Places, and today we're going to be making some cookies. So Nutrimill sent me their brand new cookie paddles to try out to see how they do, to see if they're any better than their original ones. These cookie paddles will work for the Bosch and the Nutrimill Artiste, both of those mixers. They're dishwasher safe. It works with the scraper, but you do have to have the little metal top to push the cookie paddles into, so it won't work with the plastic drive. You do need the metal drive. So we're gonna go ahead and give these a try today and see how we like them. So let's get started. Okay, so one of the neat things about these new cookie paddles is they have like curved blades for, it says innovative curved blades for optimal incorporation of ingredients. So I'm kind of excited to give these a try. I don't have a fair judgment because I don't have like regular cookie paddles, but I've made plenty of cookie dough with many other mixers, so it will be fair enough, I think, of a decision. So we're gonna go ahead and get these washed up. Today we're going to be using soft white wheat. I recommend soft white wheat, spelt, einkorn, barley, or a mix of any of those for cookies. You can use combination, like you can throw in some hard wheat into that, but I would highly suggest you use a soft white wheat for cookies. If you're going to be using a hard white wheat, you will need less flour than what you would need with soft white wheat. And we're going to be using our Bosch mixer, and the recipe we're going to be using is from my new cookbook, and it's going to be on page 63. We're going to be using the double chocolate chip cookies, and we're going to make these. This is one of my son's favorite cookies, and if you don't have my cookbook yet, I'll put a link down in the description box below if you're interested. If not, I will also put a link to this recipe. It's on my blog. You can go check it out, print it off. Don't have to wait for the book to come or anything like that. So I'll make sure to put that in the description box below as well. I'll also make sure to put a link in the description box below to all the things you see me using, the mixer, the mill, my salt, anything like that. If I have coupon codes for any of it, I'll put those down in the description box below as well. So I wanted to talk about a couple things before we get started, and a few of the things that can affect cookie dough. So cookies seem like they would be simple to make, and sometimes they are, and they can be, but there's many things that can alter your results. One of them, of course, is your wheat, which I discussed a little bit, but everybody's soft white wheat is a little bit different. Everybody's spelt is a little bit different, so it really depends on the weather, the moisture, humidity, stuff like that. My channel is based on teaching you how to work with fresh malt flour, being able to grow with those new skills that you've learned, and then be able to apply them other places. So you may need to adjust things here and there for many different things. One of them being wheat berries, one of them being the weather. If it's humid, rainy, anything like that, you may need more flour. Also, another couple things, there's a lot of frustrations this year, maybe even a little bit last year, about flat cookies. And I've noticed, I mentioned this in one of my other videos, I mentioned it in my Facebook group, about butter this year. So there's a lot of butter manufacturers that seem to have increased the moisture in their butter, and that's causing a lot of frustrations with cookies. So as you know, cookies are a very low moisture recipe. There's very little liquid that goes into them. So even the smallest amount of increased moisture in butter can affect a cookie recipe. So I recommend to get a high quality butter. Butter is one of the main ingredients in a cookie, so why not splurge to get the better butter? So I like a grass-fed butter or a European style butter or something like that. This is one of my favorite butters, the Vital Farms, but I also love a lot of the butters that Azure has. There's a few other ones. All the grocery stores carry different brands. Just take a look around. If you can find the moisture content in them, that's great, because then you'll know if you're looking for something with a high or low moisture. So enough about butter. Y'all know I love my butter. And the second thing, or I guess that would be the fourth thing, will be eggs. So if you are making any recipe, not just cookies, any recipe that calls for eggs, An egg is an estimated amount. So if you're using an egg this big or an egg this big, it's going to be obviously very different. So if you have large eggs, or if you have backyard chickens that are laying these large beautiful eggs, and you're using that in your bread or your cookies or anything like that, you may have to account for additional flour just because of the increased moisture of your eggs. That being said, if you have noticeably smaller eggs, you may need to either add a little bit extra egg or a little bit less flour. So one of the best tricks I can give you, which one of you guys actually brought this up to me a long time ago, told me about it, and I was like, that's a genius idea. Why didn't I think of that? So thank you to whoever that was. But if you take your cookie dough and you just bake one cookie off, right before you bake the whole thing off or waste all your ingredients or anything like that, just bake one cookie off and see if you like the thickness. Everyone likes a little bit different cookie. I like kind of a thin, chewy cookie. Other people like a thicker, cakier cookie. If you want a thicker cookie, you're going to need to increase the flour. If you want a thinner cookie, you're going to need to decrease the flour. So a lot of my cookies tend to be thinner because we like a thin, chewy cookie. So keep that in mind. If you're making one of my cookie recipes, you can always increase the flour a little bit. But my photos will give you a good idea of what kind of cookie they are supposed to be, because I actually make the things that I show you, take the pictures of the stuff that I make while I'm making them. So you get an idea of what it's supposed to look like, so you can adjust from there. But if you bake that one cookie off, then you're going to know what kind of cookie you're going to be getting, and you can adjust from there. Do that before you put your cookie dough in the fridge. Once the cookie dough goes in the refrigerator, if it's a cookie dough that requires chilling, it becomes a solid mass. So you want to make sure to go ahead and bake that cookie off before you put the whole batch of dough in the fridge. It will be way too hard to add anything into that. If it's a cookie dough that calls to be chilled before you bake it, then you're going to just use your cookie scoop or whatever shape you're going to be doing, and put it on a plate, put it in the freezer for like 10 minutes, and then bake it off. And that will also give you an idea of what it's going to look like after it's done being baked. Also, one more thing to go over, I guess back to the butter. If a cookie recipe calls for creaming the butter and sugar, you want to make sure that you cream the butter and sugar fully, because that can affect your results in the end. If a cookie recipe, goes for any cookie recipes, not just my cookie recipes, any cookie recipes. So if you're calling for softened butter, you want to use soft butter that's been sitting on your counter, not melted butter. So I always try to put my butter out, an hour before I'm going to start. That way it's nice and soft. You could just gently touch on it, but nothing's melted. If it's melted, it's going to give you different results in the end. If it calls for browned butter, which I do have some of those brown butter recipes, you want to make sure to brown it all the way, because when you're browning the butter, it actually takes that excess moisture out. So if you go to make, say, my brown butter chocolate chip cookies, which are delicious, by the way, they're also in my cookbook and they're also on my blog. But if you're making that recipe and you don't brown the butter, they're probably going to end up flat because there's extra moisture that's not accounted for in the recipe. So if you want to make the same recipe without browning the butter, you're going to need to increase the flour a little bit. So I think that's enough housekeeping things. So let's go ahead and get our wheat berries weighed out, and then we'll mill that, turn it into our flour, and then we'll go ahead and start making those cookies. So let me give you a better camera angle so you can see down in the mixer to see what the new cookie beaters are doing. Okay, we're going to weigh out our wheat berries, and we want 320 grams. And again, this could vary for you. You may need slightly more, slightly less. So it's okay to mill a little bit of extra, that way that you have it good to go. And if you don't end up using it, you can either put it in your freezer, save it for making roux, gravies, sauces, or add it to your next recipe that you make, or feed your sourdough starter. All kinds of fun things you can do with it. You can use it for your dusting flours, for pastas or pie doughs or anything like that. So, okay, 320 grams. This is going to go over to my mill, and we're going to mill this into our fresh milled flour. I'm using the Nutrimill Impact Grain Mill today, and I have been loving this mill. I know that it's been on back order for a while, but they're working to get more in stock. I have a $20 off coupon for the Nutrimill store. I'll make sure to put that in the description box below. And here is our beautiful freshly milled flour. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this into a bowl so I can mix in the cocoa powder and some of the other dry ingredients, and I can use this to make another recipe. Make sure that you're emptying out, if you have this mill, this little container here, this is where the finest flour is. Okay, and to the flour, I'm gonna be adding my salt. We're looking for a half a teaspoon. This is my full teaspoon, so we're just giving it our best. This is my absolute favorite salt. I talk about it on almost every video since I've tried it because it's been life-changing for us. If you want to try this out, I'll have a link in the description box below with a coupon where you can save 10% off. This is the Baja Gold Mineral Sea Salt. Loving this stuff for all of my cooking and baking and everything. Then I'm gonna use a teaspoon of baking soda. And then we're gonna add cocoa powder. Use your favorite kind here. Okay, and we're just gonna give these dry ingredients a mix here just to get it all incorporated. Make sure that there's no giant lumps in the cocoa powder. Okay, and then I'm just gonna set this to the side while we cream our butter and sugar. So let me pull this up. And here are those new cookie paddles. So if you can see here, they have like a little mini, I guess, S shape or curved like they were talking about. So you want to make sure you have the metal drive to use these, not the plastic, and these just snap into place. And then line up that, and then they're good to go. All right, I just wanted to check on that. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put in our softened butter. So you can see here, when I put this in, I'll show you. I've had this sitting out on the counter for about an hour, maybe more, and it's very soft. So if I touch it, it squeezes very easily. If I were to put this in straight from the fridge, it could cause strain on your mixer or the paddles. And you also will not get a nice creamed butter and sugar. So I think creaming the butter and sugar, a lot of people will skip that step, but it's actually pretty important to the end product of your cookie. It gives it that nice tenderness. Just want to get every last bit off of there. So I'm excited to see how well this does. So we're going to do 2/3 cup of sugar. This is organic raw cane sugar. And then we're gonna do 3/4 cup of brown sugar. This is actually that same organic cane sugar that I just used with some molasses. We like to make our own, but I do buy it sometimes for convenience sake as well. We also like to make our own powdered sugar. So let me know down in the description box below if you'd like me to make a video sometime of us using our raw organic cane sugar and making it into powdered sugar and brown sugar. If not, I won't take the time to do it, but if you're interested, I will be glad to show you. All right, I'm gonna put the lid on and we're just gonna give it a little whirl to see how this goes. Okay, I'm going to scrape down the sides. This is looking lovely already, and it's only been a short period of time. You can see what I'm talking about here. This is just the unmixed butter, but this is where we're getting it starting to cream. A true creamed butter and sugar should be lighter in color, and it should be fluffier and almost double in size. So I'm gonna scrape this down. Now this mixer on the outside of the cookie paddle box did say this could be used with the bowl scraper. So I don't have that on here, so we're just gonna hand scrape this down like I would any other cookie dough. Let's go ahead and give that another whirl. Okay. We're going to scrape it down one more time. That is beautiful. Just want to make sure everything is incorporated. Everything's good to go. This is already looking nice and smooth. Happy, happy. Okay. Just so you know, I am using the highest speed on this mixer to cream the butter and sugar. Oh, missed a spot. Okay. One more time. All right, that is looking lovely. You can see hopefully that it is lighter in color. And it's very, I guess, smooth. So we're gonna scrape this down and then we're gonna go ahead and move on to adding the vanilla and the eggs. Beautiful. We're gonna do about a teaspoon of vanilla. Generally, I like to make my own homemade vanilla, but I had forgotten that I was running low. So the one I'm working on is still brewing, which this time we're making it with bourbon. So we're going to try this out. It probably has about a month or two left to go before I can use it, but I'm really excited. I do have a video on how to make this. I will try to remember to link that down below if you're interested in making your own homemade vanilla. This stuff is amazing and it lasts such a long time, and it's so much cheaper to make it yourself. You just have to remember not to use it all up, or not to use most of it before you start your next batch, because I went through it a lot and went through it way faster than I expected. Okay, we're gonna just mix that vanilla in. I'm gonna add in 2 eggs. And wash my fingers. Okay, we'll go ahead and beat this. Okay, that looks great. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and add in the dry ingredients. And I could just be taking this off and showing you. It tends to be a little easier, but it's easier for me to just take the whole thing off so you can see the full thing. So let's just mix this in. Okay. Glad I used my lid, because that would have made a big mess had I not put my lid on because of all of the dry ingredients mixing in all at once. Okay, let me just scrape this down. This texture is looking wonderful. I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven, because this is not a recipe that the dough necessarily needs to chill. You're gonna preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and these are gonna bake for somewhere between 9 and 10 minutes. One of our favorite things to do is to have cookie dough in our freezer. So what I'll do is I'll make sometimes a double cookie batch or something like that, and then we'll just scoop it into little balls and put it in a freezer bag, and then we will have them so we can just bake off, 4 cookies one day or whatever. So we love to have cookie dough in our freezer. I think that it is easier to have cookie dough in your freezer after you've scooped it into dough balls, or you can put it in like a log shape and then you can slice them and then bake them. If you do that and you freeze it into a log, it's easier to put it in the fridge to thaw and then slice them. It's really hard to slice them when they're frozen. Okay. That looks beautiful. So what we're going to do now is add in our mix-ins. I think that the dough looks lovely. It smells like brownies or hot cocoa. Okay, yeah, everything is very well mixed. I'm not seeing any reason that I need to go again. I just wanted to make sure there was no batches of, you know, unmixed flour or butter or anything like that. So, okay, we are good. Okay, so we need 2 cups of, the recipe calls, it says white chocolate chips. If you're not a fan of white chocolate chips, that's fine. My daughter is not either. So you can use regular chocolate chips, semi-sweet chocolate chips, dark chocolate chips, or what my favorite way to do is do dark chocolate, semi-sweet, and white chocolate all together so that everybody gets a little bit of something that they like, because my son really likes the white chocolate chips. So I wanted to note that the recipe in my cookbook and the recipe on my blog does have the volume and the grams. That way, you know, whatever kind of baker you are, you can make this recipe. So I like to do about 2 cups of mix-ins of whatever you want. If you want to add nuts to this, you can do that. This is just my free-for-all leftover. If I have any leftover chocolate chips, it goes into this jar. Okay. This is my 1/2 cup scoop, and I think that was 3 cups, so I need 1 more cup. I'm going to use, these are those new chocolate chips that we got from Azure Standard Together. I think they're in my most recent haul video. These are delicious. Okay, so 2 cups went in there. Total of all different kinds of chocolate chips in there. Okay, so I'm gonna put the lid on and mix this on just number 1. Okay, I can take the lid off to show you. I like to show you as much as I can when I'm making this, but I didn't want things to go flying. So, okay, well, I'm gonna mix this on number 1. And as you can see, that's doing a great job just like mixing and incorporating all of those different mix-ins. This is great. Okay, I'm just gonna take it one more time. Don't wanna overmix this. Okay, I think we're gonna call that good to go. I'm going to pull this off and make sure that all my delicious cookie dough remains in the bowl. Okay, look at that. Overall, I am super happy with these cookie paddles. So they are offering these for sale in Nutrimill's website, I believe, the beginning of March. So this video, they should be available at the time that this video goes out. Okay, that is lovely cookie dough. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take my cookie sheet. Okay, I'm gonna put a little parchment paper on here. Okay, and I'm gonna use my 2, I think this is the 2 tablespoon cookie scoop. So I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna take the advice that I gave you earlier in the video and just cook 1 cookie off, and we'll see how it goes. I'm just gonna stick it right in the middle here. I'm gonna go ahead and bake this 1 cookie. We'll take a look and see if we need to adjust this recipe or not. So I'll be back after this goes in the oven. Okay, I'm transferring this cookie onto a smaller tray so that I can load up my bigger tray so it could go in. If I need to adjust it, I'll have to throw all the cookie dough back in, but if not, we're good to go. This is going on into the oven. Okay, our single cookie is done, and one of our favorite things to do is to smack it on the counter. Smack it on the counter, and this, it gets really thick when you're cooking it, and then when you kind of put the tray on the counter, it just makes it flatten out a little bit. So I'm happy with this. We're gonna go ahead and bake off the rest of them. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today while we made these cookies. I hope you learned something. I hope you're inspired to go and have fun in the kitchen, working with fresh milled flour. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And thanks for stopping by Grains in Small Places. Goodbye.